So the makers of the Dungeons and Dragons books are capitulating to whomever has announced that there's a problem with diversity in their stories, in their settings, in their campaigns, in the races, and the species. I'm not sure exactly. We'll go through a few of the lists here, but I want to see how some people have reacted to this posting, which goes pretty far, but apparently not far enough for these people. You just can't appease them. There's nothing you can do to make them happy with your changes to making orcs and drow and other evil villains or species not evil or so, which seems to be strange because you could have all sorts of different alignments regardless of race what you picked. So what's the big deal? Why do they have to be ambiguous? Why do orcs can be neutral or whatever? It's kind of silly. So why do I see older white men representing D&D? We need more representation, especially queer, trans visibility, and BIPOC in all aspects of your company. So this person doesn't care about the actual game and the content of the game. They care about the person writing the words, drawing the pictures, printing the pages, which is ridiculous. Like, when does this end? Do we get like ratios? Do we get like these graphs and charts of who's hiring who, and who does the black man hire the Hispanic art designer, and does he work with a trans female whatever? Like, this is getting ridiculous. I've seen Dungeons and Dragons post. That means they've heard us. Keep pushing. Don't let up on the gas. Keep making stuff. Keep giving to indie artists and platforms. Raise them up. Force them to compete or die. Compete against what? Bankruptcy? What are you talking about? Who's going to buy this stuff? It's the only way this gets better. Oh, and fire some guy. I guess because he's white. You know how we always say it's not enough to be non-racist, you must be anti-racist? That applies here. Now, this is pushing it. Apparently, you can't just be non-racist, which I think most of the people I've ever met in my life are. But you have to be against racism so strongly. And you can't shut up about it until you become annoying. Not just Romani consultants, because that's what they were comparing some of their races to. In reality, not just black contractors, no, full-time Romani narrative designers, black franchise creative directors. Fire your previous creative directors and hire some black people. Trans artists? Why the hell would you want to hire a trans artist? What does that have to do anything with art? Disabled rule design. What does a disabled person have to do with making rules or gameplay mechanics? They're not a single indie creator making up for a mistake. They're a billion-dollar corporation. Okay, I didn't know D&D was that big. My mistake. I thought this was just a bunch of guys making rule books. Call me harsh if you want, but they don't get participation trophies for removing slurs from their books. What's wrong with having racially complex characters or settings? What's wrong with having elves who think they're better than everyone else because they've been around for thousands of years, or they're immortal, or vampires who think they're better than everyone else, or whatever? What's wrong with that? Now they're just generic elves? Now they're just nice to see you or don't really care? Why would you take away conflict from a story? You know what my threshold is when I see them discouraging looting of sacred and cultural sites as a core gameplay concept? That is my threshold for even considering that the next edition just won't be a D&D, now with 30% white supremacy. But nah, the abuses of your staff permanently and BIPOC at the wheel. I don't know what BIPOC means. At the wheel, making decisions, that's the play. So these people, or this person, Vince Smith, just is not satisfied. He's never going to be satisfied. He even gave a ratio of 30% white supremacy, whatever the hell that he's talking about, from a fantasy role-playing rule set, which is insane. Now, I'm not going to read all the people who respond to this who say this is crazy, because it clearly is. Let's actually look at the changes they made and what they're doing. We present orcs and drow in a new light in two of our most recent books, Eberron Rising from the Last War and Explorer's Guides to Wildemount. In those books, orcs and drow are just as morally and culturally complex as other peoples. They already were culturally complex. They had entire religions. They had entire cultures and ways of life. We will continue to approach in future books portraying all the peoples of deity in relatable ways and making it clear that they are free as humans to decide who they are and what they do. Well, these are the Drow, and there's all kinds of wonderful backstory behind them. And I'm a gamer guy, I didn't really play D&D on tabletop, so I know the character Viconia from Baldur's Gate. And she has one of the best stories, or rather romances, and you actually go to the Drow Kingdom, or the Drow Underworld, the Underdark, I believe it's called. And there's a whole plot line associated with that. It's pretty cool. And they have this female-dominated society, and it's kind of a religion. They believe in one of their spider gods or goddesses. Very cool. Like, why would you get rid of that? Why would you take that away? It's kind of silly. Whenever D&D book is reprinted, we will have an opportunity to correct errors that we or the broader D&D community discovered in that book. That's fine. Each year we use those opportunities to fix a variety of things, including errors in judgment. Oh, right. What is an error in judgment? In recent reprintings of Tome of Annihilation and Curse of Strahd, for example, we changed text that was racially insensitive. Oh, no. What a shame. You had some racially insensitive terms in there. That sounds so much more better, so much more fun when you take away all the conflict of a race or two races that might have each other, like elves and dwarves or whomever. Pick two fantasy species that don't get along too well. Now it's gone because it's insensitive. Those reprints have already been printed and will be available in the months ahead. We will continue this process, reviewing each book as it comes up from a reprint and fixing such errors as they are present. So you can't have any racial problems. You can't have humans against the orcs. You can't have elves against the Drow, even though they're pretty much, that's the big thing. The elves don't like the Drow. Can't do that anymore. Sorry. It's too racially insensitive. Later this year, we will release a product not yet announced that offers a way for a player to customize their character's origin. Nothing was stopping a player to customize their origin any way they wanted, including the option to change the ability score increases that come from being an elf, a dwarf, or one of many D&D's other playable folk. This option emphasizes that each person in the game is an individual with capabilities all their own. When weren't they? What, do you think people weren't being empowered by creating their own character? They weren't racially individual. They had to be more special. It's like, what are you talking about? Nothing's stopping them from using their imagination. They don't need a rule book to change that. Curse of Strahd included a people known as the Vistani and featured the Vistani heroine Esmeralda. Regrettably, their depiction echoes some stereotypes associated with the Romani people in the real world. Oh, boo-hoo, you might have pissed off the Romani people, an ethnic group of an Indo-Aryan ethnic, traditionally itinerant, mostly in Europe and the Americas. Wow. They're from Romania, Italy, United States, Montenegro. Wow, just, boo-hoo. You might have offended some random group who might play D&D. What are you talking about? I've never heard anyone complain about this. To rectify that, we're not only made changes to Curse of Strahd, but in 2 upcoming books, we will also show working with the Romani consultant, since we don't want to piss off the Romani. So we're going to hire a Romani dude or dudette to represent all of Romani, so they don't get pissed off. Isn't that just wonderful? I'm glad you're thinking ahead there, D&D folk. Just covering all your bases, checking all your boxes, and trying to suck up to a bunch of retards who want you to change things for whatever stupid reason they believe in. So they don't rely on reductive tropes. Oh, darn, tropes. Yeah, you gotta keep it original. You can't do anything by the book. Can't have any classical understanding of a pattern of storytelling to fantasy. Yep, you couldn't just break your own species, but no, you have to change what's already there because you might offend some random ethnic group that I've never even heard of. We've received valuable insights from sensitivity readers on 2 of our recent books. What the hell is a sensitivity reader? Okay, if you have readers of your book and you're referring to them as sensitivity readers, you've got the wrong audience. I don't care if you write horror or murder mystery or spy thrillers or eldritch abomination stories. I don't really care. If you have a group or a demographic called sensitivity readers, you're doing it wrong. You're listening to the wrong people. And whoever call themselves this, fire them. You don't need this in your life. You don't need some overly sensitive nut job telling you what's wrong. You want a competent person who loves your stuff and goes, I like what you're doing because you're writing for me. I love your work. But if you could just change X, Y, and Z, it would be much better, or tweak this and that. That would be great. That's how you write books. That's how you write games. You apply it to the person you're trying to make this for. You should never, ever have a sensitivity reader, gamer, movie watcher, whatever. That's stupid. The best thing you can get is a hardcore fan who knows all the lore. I don't know if we're going to get someone like that. Like if you're making a Star Wars story, get a Star Wars fan. He knows all the details. What makes Star Wars work? How do lightsabers work? All this stuff. That's the kind of reader or audience you want. We are incorporating sensitivity readers into our creative process for no reason, and we will continue to reach out to experts in various fields to help us identify our blind spots. Experts in what field is there that you would need to write things? Hey, are you an expert in racial discrimination? Are you an expert in Asian relations with North America? Like what experts would you need to write a racially proper setting? I don't get it. We're proactively seeking new diverse talent to join our staff in our pool of freelance writers and artists. We've brought in contributors who reflect the beautiful diversity of the D&D community to work on books coming out in 2021. We're going to invest even more of this approach and add a broad range of new voices to join the chorus of D&D storytelling. So essentially they're doing diversity hires, which was what this lunatic was rambling on about, that apparently you have to grind Dungeons and Dragons into the ground. So you have some ratio or some group of people that are like, I know they have to be an amputee from the Antarctic that has brown skin. I don't know, maybe they're missing an eye. Maybe they speak Swahili. Of course, they're sexually promiscuous, so they have all sorts of sexual interests. And they identify as a gerbil or something like that. That's what you need in order to get hired by Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, you may as well look like the characters you're playing. Why not? Why go have an active imagination to write stuff when you could actually be a lunatic who's got all these mental issues and you don't know where you come from or where your parents are or who you are anymore, and you look like a crazy clown? Like, why not? Go all the way. Just hire a bunch of weirdos to make your books. That's how you write fantasy, guys. Clearly. I'm not going to read the rest of this. This is already depressing to me. It goes to show you just how ridiculous social justice or wokeism, whatever you want to call. I don't even know what this is. This is just insanity to me. To tell people how to write their books or who to hire or what's racially sensitive by acquiring sensitivity readers. It's just ridiculous crap. Anyway, thanks for listening. Have yourself a great day.